Right, good afternoon, everybody. We have got another 10 in 10. So, the gentleman in front of you, I will now ask the first easy question, which is what is your name, your age, your home, and your profession?
My name is Ken Richards. I live in Oshawa, Ontario, which is just about 60 kilometers east of Toronto. And I am retired, although I do work part-time during the summer months.
And your age, Ken?
And I'm 71 years old.
Good on you. Right, your first question in your 10 in 10. How many koi keeping years have you had?
I have had, actually, I guess counting this year, 51. I purchased my first koi in 1970.
Good gracious. Question 2. What is your current pond size and amount of fish that you own?
Okay, the pond size that I have, it's including the volume in the filters, is 5,250 gallons. That's US gallons.
Yep.
And the pond itself it's 10 feet by 15 feet and 5.5 feet deep. And in there, I have 11 koi.
11 koi. That's plenty of space for 11 koi.
I used to have 23.
Yeah.
But because I overwinter in the house and the indoor pond is about 2,000 gallons, I chose to I sold a few of the koi off, like moved them on, and I gave a few away to bring the numbers down for when they're inside to give them more room.
Okay. Question 3. Is this your forever pond? There will be no further ponds.
This is definitely going to be my forever, I think, based on the age and size of the pond and everything. This is forever pond.
Good. So, Ken, if your fish and your filters and your pond disappeared overnight, what would be your alternative hobby?
That's kind of a tricky one. I think what I would do is I also have some goldfish. I like the Ranchu and the lionhead goldfish, the fancy variety.
Mm-hmm.
I've got some now. I've got 6 of them at the moment. I've had on and off over the years. So if the koi and everything disappeared, I think I would be more concentrating on growing the sort of number of Ranchu I have, trying to spawn them and that type of thing. So still fish related.
Good. Number 5. What has been, over your 51 years, your biggest triumph?
I think the biggest triumph for me actually is the age I've managed to get my koi to. Because when I started, there was no internet, nothing. Information was very, very limited, so I did lose quite a few fish in the beginning. And as I've learned over the years, how to care for them better. The oldest fish that I have ever had was 27. I got her when she was a Nisai.
Wow.
And she passed away a couple of years ago.
That's a good age. Okay, so this has always been a difficult one, but we need to narrow it down. I need one piece of advice for a new pond keeper or a new koi keeper.
I think the one piece of advice I could do, other than sort of doing your research and everything before you construct the pond, is I've been in a number of places that sell different koi. Certainly not the quality of the ones there in the UK. And people always ask me which fish I would choose. My response to them is always pick the fish that you like the best because it's going in your pond.
Oh, I like that one. That's quite a new one. So, following on from the biggest triumph, question 7, what has been your biggest mistake or calamity?
I think the biggest mistake, again, when I first started out, because I had read I used to keep tropical fish, and I knew a little bit about them and water quality and so on. And I tried to kind of set similar parameters for the pond, and I tried to get it to an absolute optimum, like no ammonia, perfect 7.0 for the pH, and so on and so forth. And I was constantly trying to play with the water, adding chemicals to get everything what the book said was the ideal. And I think that resulted actually in the death of a number of my fish. So I finally gave up on that and went with what's the water now, and as long as I can maintain a decent quality of water, so the pH I think in my pond now is about 7.5, 7.8, something like that. The fish have been doing well. I've got a couple that are turning 20 this year. So I don't mess around with the water quality as far as pH and everything. Like, they're happy, they're doing very well in there. I certainly watch ammonia, nitrates, those type of things.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I'm not aiming for absolutely perfect spot-on water, because I think it does more harm to the fish than good. I mean, they're doing well, they're healthy, they're eating well, they're growing like crazy, and as I mentioned, they're living a long time. So what I'm doing is working for me. It may not work for you, it may not work for others, but for me it works well. So it's like, see what works best for you. You're going to make mistakes. I know I did, but I've got that balance now, kind of thing, and that works very well, and that's what I'm going to stick with.
Good. Okay, so question 8. What are your future plans, if any?
What I'm hoping to do, actually, you'll see when I finally get the channel up and running, and I have some videos there of the pond and the filtration and so on. I'm hoping to potentially build like a DIY Baki shower this coming year, or if I can find the components, is make an upflow filter.
Oh, okay. So, question 9. Do you get support from your partner?
Unfortunately, I don't have a partner any longer. I did for many, many years. Actually, I had the fish long before I met her.
Yeah.
And she's gone, and I still have the fish. We separated a number of years ago. We've been divorced for about 7 now. So most of the support I get with regards to the pond is my son. He's in his early 30s, but he was very much involved in the fish when he was younger. I mean, he still comes and checks them out when I'm here. And I know if I happen to be away for any length of time or anything, he would be quite capable of taking care of them. So he's, I guess, sort of my biggest support when it comes to the fish.
Excellent. And your final question, what is your favourite fish?
I'll sort of do that as a 2-part question. My favorite variety is Kumanoru. I've loved that one forever. I had a really nice one that, again, passed away a couple of years ago, and I had him for, I think, about 15 years, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm still looking to try and find a really nice one. The favorite fish I have in the pond, actually, there's 2 of them. I've got a great big female Ginrin Chagoi, which is my biggest fish. But I've also got a Doi Tochiba female, and she is the friendliest one. You can pet her. She'll chew on your fingers. I mean, if you put your finger in the water, she hangs on hard enough you can almost lift her right out of the water with you.
Wow.
So she's, from a pet standpoint, she's kind of my favorite. From a variety standpoint, definitely the Kumanoru.
Very good. So that has been your 10 in 10. So thank you for that, Ken. And if it's okay with you, shall we just continue for a few more minutes and we'll do a quick Q&A?
Absolutely.
Right. You mentioned that you are basically called KR, hence Ken Richards. What is going to be your new channel name, and when does it start?
Okay. Like I said, there is a channel now, again, which just comes up under the KR. I'm working on some videos to put up, so I'm hoping to have that ready by the end of the year, so another couple of weeks, at least get the first video up there. It's going to be named My Koi Obsession.
Okay.
And one of the reasons I actually took that name is I've been a follower sort of through text or through textbooks and manuals and everything from Peter Waddington for many, many years. And I know Peter did say at one time, and I can't remember if it was in a message to me or in one of his books, because I've looked, but I don't see it. He said, keeping koi is not a hobby, it's an obsession.
Mm-hmm.
And I agree with that 100%. And as I said, I mean, that's stuck with me, as I said, for 51 years now.
That's excellent. And over the 51 years, what has been sort of the most significant change?
I think what I have seen, not so much here in Canada, because we're still limited on supply of koi products, like pond products and food and all that type of thing. But even in these years, what I have seen is the quality that koi have improved dramatically over the years, whether they're sort of homegrown or whether they're from Japan, as well as, again, not so much here, but it's the filtration and so on for the ponds to make life easier and to give you better quality water.
Yep.
The biggest seller over here for most pond keepers seems to be the pressure filters. I mean, they work in some cases. I had a couple of years ago as well. But more people are now getting into some of the Easy Pod filters, although they're a little harder to get here in Canada. I know a few people that have the Nexus filters. I'm not aware of anybody here who has a drum filter yet.
Mm-hmm.
They are extremely expensive. I saw one online, one of the Profi combos, or actually the Iwasi combos, from the United States, and I think it was $7,000 US, which rates to about 9,000 Canadian.
Oh my goodness!
So that's out of the range for the majority of people, myself included.
Of course.
You know, I mean, I would love a drum filter. I'd often thought about sort of looking at getting plans from Righty and maybe constructing one. I know his original one was built out of wood before he went to the polycarbonate.
Yep.
I just don't know if, even with his plans, I don't know if, number one, I would have the expertise to put it together.
Yep.
And I don't know if I'd be able to find all the components, again, because we're sort of severely limited with what's accessible here compared to other places.
Okay. So you mentioned Righty, and we've all got our favourite channels that we watch. I mean, this is your opportunity now to give a shout out to those people that you find interesting, fascinating, informative.
Yeah, I think, I don't remember all of them. I know I'm following, I think about 27 or 28 channels right now.
Yep.
Righty's definitely one I've been following for a long time. I've started following the People's Pond. I also do Martin's Koi Pond and Twisted Koi.
Uh-huh.
Our Koi Life is another one. I started following that after you did your presentation of the video and the visit you had with them.
Yep.
And I like to kind of follow them. And then there are a few other ones. Eden Koi is another one.
Mm-hmm.
I think another one's called Koi Wholesale.
Yep.
He gets some good information. Tim Waddington's Quality Nishiki Goi. I like to see, Tim doesn't get in a lot sort of to the fish, but it's more to some of the ponds that he and his company build. And I find those absolutely amazing, just the size of the ponds and so on.
Yeah. So
I try to get it from, in budget pond keeping with Leon is another one. And Devon Koi and Darby Koi as well.
Excellent. You've named quite a number there, and we obviously share the same channels. So I know we've spoken before and people don't know this, but have you ever been to Japan?
Yes, actually. I was fortunate enough to visit twice. As I mentioned, I got my first koi in 1970 and didn't know a lot about them. And I saw an advertisement for the British Koi Keeper Society. So I joined the BKKS in, I think it was 1974, and as an international member. And I used to get their newsletters mailed to me quite literally, because again, email and everything didn't exist at the time. And in one of the newsletters, it said they were planning a trip, or some of the members were planning a trip to Japan. And it was stopping in Thailand for 3 days and then going to Japan and then going back home to England. So I wrote them and said, if I join you in England, would I be able to come on the trip? And they said, yes, absolutely. So I flew to England, met with the group, and then did the trip to Thailand and the Japan trip, and then went back to England and flew back home, and had a phenomenal time. And over that year, I started corresponding with a gentleman named Mr. Nakamori in Japan, and said that I was hoping to come back at some point. And the following year, I had another newsletter from BKKS that said a different group of members was going to be going to Japan again. So I wrote back and said, could I come with you? And they said, yes, absolutely. And I mentioned that to Mr. Nakamori, and he said, well, if I would like to go to Japan ahead of the group, I could spend some time with him and his family. So what I did is I flew to Japan directly from Canada. I spent a week with Mr. Nakamori and his family, and I got to see a number of different places that he took me. Then when the group from BKKS came over to Japan, I met up with them, spent the next, I think it was 10 days or so, touring Japan and the dealers and so on with the BKKS group. Then flew back to England and spent about a week in England, and then flew back home to Canada. So that was in 75 and 76 is the two trips that I took. Things have changed, I know, dramatically over the years in Japan. as far as tourism and so on and so forth. And I know the fish have changed, the quality, and et cetera, in that time frame. But as I say, I mean, it was, again, almost 50 years ago kind of thing that I was there. And I still remember, you know, some of the places we visited, some of the people that we saw, just, you know, the people themselves, the Japanese people, were absolutely amazing as far as hospitality and everything. It was a phenomenal visit. I wish I could go back now. But I mean, you know, costs can be prohibitive to a lot of people.
Yeah.
And things have gone up, obviously, in price. I mean, if I was able to financially, I would probably go. But I know right now, I mean, I couldn't afford it. But I would love to visit again. It was a phenomenal experience.
Yeah, yeah. Do you find that the Canadian koi keeping aspect is on the increase, or are you still quite limited to the amount of people that are involved?
We're getting the place that I work at in the summer. It's a big garden center in Ajax, Ontario, and actually the fellow from Stubbs Aquatic, I think his name is Chris.
Yeah.
He did a short video from there recently about selecting some small fish. So that's where I work in the summer, and I work in the pond department. We do bring in some Japanese koi, which are sold there. Not the large ones, kind of generally, you know, the knee-high and a few toe-high, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a lot of people, and they also breed a few on site, like more domestic ones. Most of the customers that come in are buying a smaller koi, and they have smaller ponds, and the majority of them will use like pressure filters. There's the odd person who's got like a bigger sort of Owasi box filter. A couple of them I know have purchased the Easy Pods. I know we do have a couple of Nexus filters and the Cetus sieves there for sale. But again, because of the price point, most people don't want to spend that kind of money. So they're more, they call it a koi pond, but a lot of them is more a garden pond. Because I know when I talk to people, I show them pictures of my pond, and we talk about water changes, because a lot of people here for some reason think a water change in the spring and in the fall is all they need to do. And when I tell them I'm changing on my outdoor pond about 500 gallons a week, a lot of them will say that's the entire volume of their pond. You know, so they will stick, again, they will go with like a pressure filter of some kind of thing. And then they're constantly having issues with, you know, water quality and algae and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know, so when and then at that point, I mean, I will try to push, you know, again, more frequent water changes, getting better quality UVs and so on kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But most of them, again, it's more like a backyard pond than a koi pond. I mean, I've had a lot of people look at pictures of mine and say it's not a pond, it's a swimming pool.
Yeah, get that a lot.
But because of the size.
Yeah.
And you know, and again, I mean, it's certainly one of the larger ones compared to most people I've spoken to.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people, their ponds are more almost like a water garden. They have a lot of plants and everything in the pond.
Yeah.
My pond has none in it. I built it with the intent of having it as a koi pond, strictly for koi. Like, koi are what brings the colors to the pond.
Yeah.
You know, they don't need plants. I mean, I feed them well. You know, I give them, you know, supplements and everything kind of thing to help with the diet they would get, say, from eating plants and that type of thing. But I want to look at the fish. I love water lilies and lotus and all those kind of plants, but I don't want them in my pond.
Lovely. So as we discussed before we started videoing, we're now on 19 minutes. So just one question that I want to ask. Oh, if I can actually remember now, because it's gone clean out of my head. That's it. When you launch My Koi Obsession, and the fact that you've had 51 years experience, will you be doing a subject like New Beginnings, where you've got early camera footage or camera photographs of your trip to Japan? Because I, for one, will be fascinated in that.
Yeah, I have actually, when I went to Japan, and again, because the cameras like we have now are not available, I took a number of pictures. I used like the 35 millimeter slide film.
Yeah.
And I think I was fortunate enough in '76 to actually go to a koi show in Osaka when I was there. And I think on that one I took something like 10 36 exposure rolls of film.
Mm-hmm.
So I have hundreds of pictures from both trips, like in slides,
Yep.
which I'm sort of compiling into like a sort of video slash slideshow presentation.
Yep.
So that will be one of the first videos that's going up. And then I have, when I built my ponds, I'm on my third pond now. The first one I didn't sort of take pictures of the construction. The second one and the one I have now, I did from, this is where it's going to go in the backyard, to starting the excavation, to the hole, to putting in the liner and the plumbing and all the rest of it. So I can document that sort of from start to finish. So
Yeah.
those I will be definitely putting up on the site. And then I have some pictures and some actual video. I visited a koi farm in Midlothian, West Virginia a few years ago. And I had a camera there that I could take video and everything. So I have a number of video clips of the koi harvest, of some of the fish that the gentleman had there. I was also able to get like some underwater footage of some of the fish as well.
Mm-hmm.
So all of that will begin coming up on the website.
Well, I, for one, am certainly looking forward to that. And you will have to text me when that goes live, because I'll be one of the first to watch it. Anyway, Ken, that brings this 10 in 10 and a Q&A to a close. Thank you very much for joining me from Canada.
You're welcome.
And hopefully people will keep an eye out for the new channel that's going to come out, My Koi Obsession. So thank you very much, Ken, and you take care.
Thank you, Steve. You too. All the best.